All right, so with our handsome Mr. Sterling, ready, sir? Oh, what a good job. So he's doing stellar. He and his BFFs have been doing a really nice job wrestling. So they've been kind of adorable together. Ready? We'll do a little find it. So the liver treats, he does really like them, but these are a little bit challenging. I can't break them smaller. I would recommend for any liver treats or treats that are kind of large is to use either a cutting board and a cutting knife of some kind, or you could also get away with meat scissors depending on the type of training treats. Even the little round mini ones that are kind of like the roundish training treats, I even break those up to like 3 little segments. So these liver treats are very popular, but then he's going to eat them up really quickly. And out of one snack, we could probably even get, for example, well, this one broke a little better. We could get like 3 to 4 different behaviors. So you'll see when he gets excited, I don't say like no, off, down, or start squealing. If he gets a little jazzed, I just like to add more movement and then capture the moments where he comes into my space softer. So right here, I would feed for all 4 on the floor or ask for a sitting position. Ready? Find it. So, but we're just warming up, Mr. S. Ready? Sterling, come. Yes. So we're just going to get him in the groove with a couple lovely recalls from these find its. So that way we can kind of get some of his energy out in a constructive manner versus using it jumping on me or getting more distracted or whatever it might be. So always think, when in doubt, if you don't know what you'd rather have your gorgeous guy or gal do, and I guess all the beauties are boys this time for this round, Sterling, come, is think again, what would I rather replace the original behavior, even if it could be a natural dog response, to something you'd prefer. So this doesn't mean that you can't take away like natural dog behavior. So dogs will always want to dig and chase and bark, and do the things that make them dogs. But there could be moments where, for example, digging may not be the healthiest option in like your yard where you just did the ground with your grass. So for example, if we got some jumping, I just ignore. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit with some loose leash walking. Nice. And I'm just going to capture when all these 4 feet are on the floor and he's engaging with me. Yes. So just like I did a little bit earlier with Mr. B or Bernie, you could, for example, sometimes, find it, work a little bit through some movement behaviors. So see the jumping? He's just finally excited that it's his turn. And I do have all these really nice stinky training treats that Mom had brought. So he says they're very delicious. Ready? Find it. It's the one you missed. Nice. What a good boy. Find it. So I do like to, for the youngers or even for the olders, but keep the behaviors where you're maybe rotating through a couple different skills, not to confuse them, but to keep them more engaged. I find that if we did like the first 10 minutes of all loose leash walking, I'm more than likely probably going to lose my puppy to the environment because I become really boring and it's not as fun as, let's say, movement behaviors, which could be those find its or sort of wiggling in the environment. Nice, right here, beautiful. So you can capture these moments where he's either by the left or the right side. The main goal is that he's soft and next to one of your legs and feed for that. So I don't even mind if the puppy's a little lagging behind because he's not jumping. He's not sort of pummeling me, which is a win. Nice. So sometimes this is a great way to start honing in on lovely loose leash walking in different venues for down the road. Like obviously, if this was not a safe fenced in zone to do so, you would then go ahead and have your puppy on a longer training lead and then be able to work this little disengagement from the environment, honing back into you. Sterling, come. Nice, good job. So even those little wellness treats, I'm ripping those ones up into like 3 or 4 more little pieces. Nice. So right here, yes. What a smart boy. Gorgeous. Oh, we lost that one. Nice work. I know our other boys are like, we would like to come back out and wrestle again. And they do get little breaks. So like they take little rest periods in their little zones, but then they also do get to come out for potty breaks in between filming and practicing. And they also get to wrestle. So it's not that they're always taking a nap the whole time. They're rotating through different skills. Ready? Nice check-in. Good job. Ready? So we'll do another little find it. He's almost got it. And then from there, I'll give a little recall in just a second. Sterling, come. Yes, nice job. 2, I noticed that the little blue harness that you guys had borrowed is getting a little bit snug for him. So I actually gave him an upgrade since he's going to be coming to the day school program for another 3 weeks after today. So he's borrowing one of my other harnesses. And now technically all 3 of the boys, no offense to Bernie, Bernie has a beautiful blue harness, so he still looks gorgeous in his. But the 3 other men are all rocking the same pattern, which is like the bling bones from the lupine. So they're all like their little paw prints, like the skull and crossbones. So they're all like being, I guess, twins, but triplets. Sterling, come. Yes. What a brilliant boy. So like, let's say he's doing a really nice job coming from the environment. We might then go from doing some loose leash walking. So notice, chewing is optional. That was embarrassing. Oh my goodness, you got to chew those bad boys. But then from here, we might go into working a little bit with our stationary position, like a weight, and then work that recall. So I know he's still struggling sometimes too with some separation anxiety, and like having you leave the room is very challenging for him. So again, wait. Sterling, come. So while I'm just working through some of these weight exercises, we'll also discuss a bit with some things that could be potentially helpful for the handsome guy. So when he's here, he's obviously practicing some quiet sort of decompression time too. But I sort of do leave him with sort of some of the friends, not loose. They all have their own little section where they can still work a few skills and work on shoes and be a little preoccupied, but they're sort of near each other. So it's not as like feeling of alone. So again, we're going to get a little sit. He's like, how about I frolic? You're very fancy with your frolicking. So if your babe starts to jump, I just pivot, let them slide off, see if I can get the behavior I'd rather. Then I'm going to actually feed him for that because I don't want him to get too frustrated and not get anything for his attempt. So wait. So if me adding movement was too hard, I wouldn't add tons. So notice how me taking a step to the side, he kind of broke. So I'm going to replant him. So we'll get that sit. He's like, did you throw it? Nice. I'm going to tell him to wait. And then Sterling, come. So if your puppy does wiggle a lot, I do recommend to give them little breaks throughout the stationary. So like for him to be more successful, in between sitting and waiting or downing and waiting and calling him, I then throw out a couple find its. So this way, Mr. S has the chance to go frolic, get sort of that energy out, and then see if he can be stationary again and be more successful. So we'll try again for that little sit. I'm going to tell him to wait, see if he can hold it for just a couple seconds. Sterling, come. Yes, what a smart boy. Nice job. So I'm going to just send him away. Two, sometimes the sending away with the find its is a great way to almost like reboot your babe, give them a little recess before starting something novel or something again. Nice. So Sterling, come. Yes. It can also give you a great moment to do a recall, but not from the weight, but instead from the environment. So we're going to try again, set up this handsome guy. We'll get another little sitting. We're going to tell him to wait. And so again, wait is hold back until the handler calls you or until we get released to go grab something. So again, Sterling, come. Yes. So right now his visual is like a hand slogan sort of moving downwards. He's hearing the recall word. Chewing is still optional, but he's hearing the recall word and then seeing that hand drop. You guys can decide to do whatever hand signal you'd prefer for a come when called. Some people do a swoosh motion towards them, some tap their leg, so it's fine, something that makes sense to you guys. So we're gonna get that gorgeous little sitting. He's like, what if I dance? If he goes to dance, I'm just gonna let him slide off. We'll try again to regain his focus. Ready, sit. He's like, oh, I'm getting exhausted. You could do it down. So if he's doing a very nice little down, I'm just gonna feed him for that. Sometimes you may find certain positions are easier for some than others. A down could be another great way to start capturing some more of relaxation or like take a little pause or a little break. So right now I'm just feeding a few moments while he's vegging. So I know we were working those, he's like, I'm gonna roll over and you can hand it to me that way. So if your puppy is a noodle and they tend to flop around, there's a big difference between like a rollover and a tap out. So I know we've discussed a little bit here and there with dog body language. So you'll see that Mr. Handsome is, for the most part, like a wet noodle, very soft, very wiggly, very fluid. I can't talk, fluid. If you're finding that they are becoming rigid or frozen or looking almost like the air around them is getting sort of still, that is not a good sign. So that's either they're overwhelmed, they're stressed, they're shutting down, or they're about to get overwhelmed and maybe react. So if you're not seeing loose, wiggly, fluid, soft body language, then assess what is the environment like, what are we doing, what could be triggering or overwhelming the dog. If you're seeing a very floppy noodle, like rolling over and flopping, that's probably potentially like, I come in peace, don't hurt me, but they're not to the point where they're overwhelmed and doing a tap out. So a tap out, you will see, and this is beautiful. So I'm going to capture these relaxed moments for him, because for him to like take a pause is kind of challenging. So everybody's got different comfort ranges, and for some, they might be dealing with some separation sort of troubles. So this doesn't mean that your puppy is bad or, is doing something poorly. It's just everybody's dogs are a little different, just like we're different. So some people struggle a lot more with anxiety. Some people have depression. Some people get really angry really fast. Some people are very easygoing, so we all have our easy things and harder things for us. So for some puppies, the same thing will apply. They might find certain things more challenging than others. But back to that rollover and tap out. So I know I had mentioned a little earlier for Mr. B, Mr. Bernie, is that there is the really great book on canine body language. And that one will dive into how there's differences between what people thought were like an okay behavior to actually that's like a red flag, I need more space, or yellow. So when your puppy does a rollover, they're very soft, noodle-esque, and just kind of flop over. When they are overwhelmed, like maybe you went to the vet's office and they're really feeling frazzled and someone approaches and they instantly quickly roll over, that's typically more considered a tap out. And a tap out, when someone goes to reach for that dog or puppy, they're actually saying, please give me a break. I need more space. And when you go to reach, you might actually get a snap, bite, or even like, again, some other behaviors. So if you're not always as familiar with your dog's body language or their behavior, the more we know how they're trying to communicate, the better we can help sort of handle situations in our weird human world for them. So we're going to try again a little sit. We're going to try with one of those weights, and we're going to see if you can hold it for a few seconds. I might add a little bit of some wiggles. Notice how if the wiggles happen, he says that's a little bit more challenging. I'm going to reset him up roughly where I first started, get that little sit, tell him to wait. And if, let's say, me wiggling from side to side was too hard, we're going to just work on the time frame. So ready, Sterling, come. Yes, nice job. So eventually too, guys, you could, like I've mentioned in classes, is you do want to fade out. He didn't see that one. Ready? Find it. So you do want to fade out the food being presented first to the food given after. Excuse me. So if, let's say, your recalls consist of you calling and your food is in your hand, I would then start to work it where you have the verbal and the visual cue. And then when they come into your space, then mark that and then go to grab for your food or have it ready in the other hand. So we might, for example, get him into another little sitting position. I might tell him to wait. And then again, my hand is now empty. And then what I might do is, again, he's like, oh, but this is too hard. I'm going to bring him back if he breaks. So breaking means that the puppy got up or wiggled from what you're going to come sit with me. Oh my goodness. He's too funny. So he's like, let's just snuggle. So if your puppy has a moment, don't worry. He's just trying to figure out what the heck does this crazy snack lady want. So I'm going to tell him to wait, see if I can take a little step, and then I might go, and he's like, no, my brain is melted. If your puppy is really having a hard time, don't work it to the point where they can't function. So right here, there he goes. He's like, I'm giving up on life. So he's being a perfect little roly little noodle. So I'm going to tell him to wait. You're being very cute, kind of dying inside a little bit, but I'm holding it together. Oh my gosh. And then I'm going to go Sterling, and then I'm going to say, come. And then I might feed him right after. So you might eventually have a hand signal, like I mentioned, a swooshing motion. It's whatever makes sense to you. If your hand getting low is the target, that's fine too. But we want to start having them work the skill without the food being presented first. So the equation may have been originally food is in the hand. We lure for the behavior to like into a down. You lure them with the food, and then you feed them right as they do it. Eventually your hand would be empty. You would, let's say, want that down. So my hand is empty. I'd say down. We'd get the behavior, and I'd go yes and feed for that response. So my food is now given after for when he does accomplish the work. Do, for now, make sure to feed while he's in the thing or doing the thing you want. If, let's say, he's like, look at me, you're a roly-poly, Mr. Man. So let's say he is doing a really great job in a sitting position, but as you go to treat him for the sit, he stands up, and that's when he gets his food. He's going to think that because he stood up, that might be what you're looking for. So you either want to mark the moment they did the right thing. So if you're not fast enough with your food, you can hopefully start to reinforce for that thing they just did. But I find, especially for the youngsters or even an older dog learning something new or refining something they didn't quite grasp, is feed for the moment they're doing the thing in that time frame. So if you wanted to capture a down position, we would want to make sure we're feeding while still in the down to build up. That's the reason you got the paycheck. So maybe let's say he's like, I'm exhausted. So I'm going to try and do a little weight, even from the down position, take a few steps from him. And now that he's a little bit tired, he's like, nope, I don't think I can handle it. I was going to try a little bit with the side passing around him, but he says that was way too hard. So your puppy is constantly communicating how comfortable or how confused he might be by how well he's doing. So again, wait. So if your babe is struggling, it normally means I don't understand. Ready? Come. Or, for example, they're overwhelmed, they're overtired. Maybe the environment is way too stimulating or so new they can't function. Excuse me with my little stuffy nose. Ready? Find it. So if your babe is really struggling, I know we've discussed this a little bit prior in some of the other videos with other previous puppies, is always think, is the environment going to be conducive to my puppy learning, or is this an environment where my puppy has never even tried it yet and they barely understand the skills, let alone be able to function in that difficult environment? So we're going to tell them to wait one more little moment, and then I'm going to say again, Sterling, come, and then I'm going to feed that handsome man. So he's doing a stellar job with these weights and even coming when called from like the environment or from a recall, from a find it. So we'll do another little find it. And then we'll go, Sterling, come. What a good job. That was very pretty. So he really is doing stellar. So I want to try a little bit with maybe some of our take it and drop it exercises, because I know you had mentioned he did find out in a field a dead bird and he did end up eating it. So there will be moments where we all have hiccups. We as people fail a lot, and it's okay. So your puppy is programmed to be a never-ending scavenger. So as a survival mechanism for any dog, they will forage and search and look for goodies to consume. Sometimes we do not consider those things food, or we would be worried about potentially the parasites, or why is that thing dead, and now why are we potentially eating it? So I understand from our cultural perspective, it is a very big no-no. But remember that from your dog's perspective, they just won on a free meal, and why not enjoy it? So if you're struggling with a puppy that is consuming things that are non-edible and you're worried about it, there is the option of prevention through muzzle training. I am not saying this is what everybody has to do, but there are some dogs that will, under any circumstance, even though you've done your darndest, some even have a medical condition which is called pica, which is not what I think he has. But pica is where they eat anything, and a lot of them are very not so much food-based, so like rocks, or they consume like huge amounts of other inanimate objects out on the walk or out in the environment. They also sometimes will try to eat other household items that are not at all food-based. It's not in a sense of chewing and then by accident ate a little bit. They're like literally trying to eat things that are not acceptable for the longevity of the dog. So muzzle training, they actually have some awesome muzzle companies out there that now also have a guard. So the muzzle should have plenty of room for panting, drinking, and eating. And they even have treat holes or spaces that are big enough for food to go in for when you're working. But muzzle training is not for a bad dog or a dog that is only aggressive because they're fearful or whatever reason behind it. So muzzles sadly have a very bad stigma, and there's plenty of people that do use them wrong. But muzzle training is something that I work on with my dogs as well, because I want my dogs under a circumstance where they might need one to not be another stressful thing added to the equation. So if my dogs had never been muzzle trained, and now all of a sudden I slap one on when we go to only the groomer or only to the vet, or if they had an injury and now let's say my dog got hit by a car and I'm trying to pick him up and he's trying to bite me because it hurts, those would be moments where getting my dog comfortable with their muzzle held closed, be it with a makeshift muzzle with your leash in a safety situation. Maybe it's a wonderful muzzle company, like there's the Big Snoof dog gear, or there's, for example, Mia's muzzles, or a few other brands out there that do a stellar job either doing custom or specifically, sized varieties that fit your babe really nicely. So muzzle training could be another great way to go out in those fields or go out to those public places and you're worried about him potentially consuming something whole, and now you're dealing with a 7,000 to 8,000 obstruction surgery, it's much safer at times to muzzle train and prevent the rehearsal. And then as he's mature or he's gotten really good with leave it, then you don't have to worry about preventing it, almost like the bumpers for when you're bowling. So once he learns how to bowl, you can take the bumpers away. So he's like, good night. So, but we may find for him, working with take it and drop it and working with things he's allowed to have prevents the grabbing and the instantly trying to run away with it. Because if we're like, what do you have? And that means I'm coming to get it, then that pretty much triggers to your dog, better start running, or you better start swallowing it, or maybe start resource guarding, because here I come again to take it away. Hi, handsome. He's like, let's just hang out together. Hi, my love. Why are you so stinking cute? He's like, I got an itch. So I'm going to grab a few toys and we'll just see if we can practice. I have them right over here. Ready? So we'll plop some of these bad boys out. He says, I'm ready. So the benefit of having different types of items, like different textures or values to the things, is I want him to at times find something of more value, medium or low, and then be able to rotate through those different items and practice either dropping it or checking in. And of course, now he's like, I'm just going to itch because I'm so tired. So if, let's say, I know we tried doing it a little bit with Mr. B earlier, and he didn't quite go for the toys per se. Here we go. So very nice. So sometimes I might make the toy come alive and become sort of intriguing. Oh, go get it. He's like, where'd it go, lady? Right here. So I want him to play with things he's allowed to have and practice that relinquishing or exchanging or trading is a good idea. If your babe doesn't do this with even things he's allowed to have, how is he going to handle it with things he shouldn't have? So if, let's say, again, I'm just trying to get this to be a little bit more intriguing by adding some wiggles and hopefully he can go and grab it. What a good job. And you could even do this with games he likes to play with you. So if he likes to play tug or some of those, I'd recommend that. So then we might go right here and you could go, ready, Sterling, drop it. Yes. And I feed him for letting go. If, for example, he goes right back to it, yes, but then he does a check-in, I'm going to feed him for that. So what I'm trying to reinforce for this beautiful boy is that when you ignore the thing that you thought was really cool, or you're able to take a break from it and check back in with me, good things happen. If, for example, every time you have something, I take it away and there's no value in letting go, why is my puppy going to do this later for things he shouldn't have? So we want to rehearse this with things he's allowed to have first, so you can build up value in disengaging from a resource. So it could be as simple as right here, he's enjoying something, and normally we tend to be the bringer of the bad or the end of the game, like I did a little bit with Mr. B when he was on his bed. I might go and toss a snack at him while he's mid-enjoying, give him one of those, and then start again. So this way you're doing a little bit with that treat and retreat. And notice how he's like, all right, well, I'll just take a break and come to a check-in, and I could feed him for that response there. Nice. Good job. What a smart boy. So, but maybe what I'll try is a little bit with a toy that wiggles. And we'll try and see if we can get a little bit of play. Ready? So a great way to practice your take it and drop it exercises is to, while you're playing with your puppy, and I know Mr. B was working on this a little bit earlier, is get your puppy to grab something, and then when you're ready, have a couple tidbits on you, and you go, ready, drop it. Yes. Nice. When I don't take the item away, I have it either play again or we rotate through another fun toy. But if, oh, smart boy. But if every time I came near, it meant I'm taking the item from you, then he won't really care that I'm bringing a chew or a snack, for example. I mean, to replace and engage with that sort of exchanging. So I would make sure that what you're exchanging for seems to have a little bit more of higher value. So if your baby was enjoying like a really delicious bone or chew item, and you're like, oh, here's like a crunchy dog snack, let's try and leave your amazing prize behind, that would be where maybe you have to practice with cheese or cold cuts or hot dogs and build up that letting go. Doesn't mean it goes away, but that letting go has some value too. So right here he's playing, I'm gonna go, Sterling, ready, drop? Yes. So I'm feeding him for the let go. I don't instantly take the toy away because I don't want him to think that letting go means the game is over or the bad stuff's about to begin. So if your drop-its have by accident turned into like, I'm going to take it, your babe is more than likely going to be like, heck no, and they're going to run away with the item. Nice. What a smart boy. So again, he's going to catch the critter, and I might go, ready, drop it. And if, let's say, he doesn't respond because he's a little excited, I might go, Sterling, drop it. Yes. So if you don't get it, don't ask over and over. He might just be a little bit confused. If you keep asking and he has no idea what we're asking for, he's probably going to lose the meaning behind the word. I'm so sorry. Today, I guess I have a little bit of a stuffy nose, but a little bit runny. So not to get into details. Yes. So if your puppy releases an item on his own, I capture those moments too. So let's say here's this cool toy. I'm going to go ahead and toss it. Let him just go grab it. This could be like, oh no, your sock or something. We'll see if he goes for this one better. It's a brand new one, something he hasn't seen yet. So let's say, oh no, there's my hand towel, there's my washcloth, or pretty much the same thing. Here's my sock or whatever. To your best ability, you want to prevent the rehearsal of him grabbing things he shouldn't and playing with them or engaging, and then we chase him. That'll turn it into a really big game. So right here, he's playing with something he's allowed to have, but I'm going to go, Sterling, yes. And that's where your positive interrupter could come into play, his name and that little kissy noise, or just the kissy noise itself to get that focus. So he's like, and it fell right out of his mouth. So right here, he's playing with it again. Ready, Sterling? Yes. So if your puppy can't pause and move away from an item he's allowed to have, how is he going to be able to move away from things he shouldn't have? So he's like, ooh, you smell delicious. So you do want to practice and rehearse these skills with the items he's allowed to practice with first, so you can almost practice those dance moves before needing them in the real world down the road, which might be on stage. So, but this way, toys, inanimate objects, things he maybe shouldn't have are just as easy to exchange or relinquish or move away from. So remember, everything comes with time and rehearsal and practice. So, but if he's barely practicing with things he should be playing with, he has no foundation in the behavior for when he needs it in the other settings. So this could be probably really beneficial for him too, just like the other puppies too, for items on the floor. Nice job, sir. But we'll maybe give Mr. S a little break from this one. And then I want to dive into a little bit of that separation or like helping with anxiety that he's struggling with, because maybe some of the other puppies might be dealing with it too as you're trying to increase sometimes some alone time while you're maybe doing the dishes or hopping in the shower or whatever the dynamic might be. So, but we'll give Mr. S a little break, toss a few snacks at the handsome guy, and we'll give him a little moment and we'll do some more fun right after.